Stop. Listen carefully. What if I told you the most devastating revenge isn't anger, violence, or confrontation? What if the most brutal retaliation is silence? What if disappearing from someone's life without arguing, without explaining, without fighting, creates more regret than any final words ever could? Most people panic when abandoned, but the elite know a secret. When someone loses access to you, access becomes priceless, and the quieter you are, the louder your absence becomes. If you click away now, you'll never understand the psychological triggers that make the human mind obsessed with what it once took for granted. Before we go deeper, answer this. Have you ever walked away silently and watched someone chase you later? If yes, drop a fire below. If not, comment, "Teach me." Because after this video, you'll know exactly how to perform a silent exit that makes people regret ever losing you. Chapter 1. The Wound of Absence. Revenge isn't about rage. Revenge is about control. When Machiavelli wrote about power, he warned rulers never to let enemies see emotional weakness. Emotion reveals vulnerability. Emotion gives the opponent leverage. But silence is a psychological battlefield they cannot navigate. You're here because someone pushed you away. Someone devalued you. Someone expected you to stay loyal while they acted careless. You want them to feel your absence, to regret losing what they failed to protect. Not with violence, not through manipulation, but through a cold, strategic withdrawal. Let's expose a truth most men ignore. Think about it. When were you most obsessed with someone? Probably when you couldn't have them, when they were distant, when they didn't respond, when they didn't explain. Humans crave certainty. When certainty vanishes, obsession grows. The brain loops unanswered questions. Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting their actions back at them. They are forced to confront what they lost. But here's the psychological trap. Most men try to plead, explain, convince, negotiate, justify. They send long texts, they demand answers, they chase. The moment you chase, you lose leverage. You broadcast neediness, you signal dependency. Weak men try to change someone's mind. Powerful men change direction. Machiavelli understood that if persuasion fails, shift strategy. Withdraw resources, withdraw attention, withdraw presence, because presence is a gift. Access is a privilege. Your time is currency. If someone disrespects you, denies you effort, ignores your value, stop making deposits into a system that offers no return. This is the first phase of the silent exit. Not blocking, not dramatic goodbyes, not warnings. Simply redirect energy backward into yourself. The weak crave closure. The powerful create it internally. When you detach, you reclaim identities. When you stop responding, you reclaim power. Understand something critical. You're not disappearing to manipulate them. You're disappearing to rebuild dominance. If they regret losing you later, that regret is a byproduct, not the objective. The objective is restoration. But let's be real. Right now, you feel pain. You feel disrespected, dismissed, discarded. Maybe they ghosted you. Maybe they betrayed you. Maybe they replaced you. Silence is your armor. Stillness is your weapon. Control is your crown. Now, pause for a second, because this next truth cuts deep. If someone can walk away from you easily, it means you trained them to believe you'd never leave. Think about that brutal reality. Did you give too much of yourself? Did you become predictable? Did you sacrifice standards to keep them? Here's the twist. People don't regret losing someone who chases them. They regret losing someone who suddenly stops. The silence shocks the nervous system. It disrupts expectation. The mind panics when patterns break. This is why disappearing hits so hard. You're not punishing them. You're reminding them who you are. But most men make 3 fatal mistakes when trying to make others regret losing them. They announce they're leaving. They try to provoke jealousy. They post emotional content for attention. Machiavelli would scoff at these tactics. They're obvious. They're reactive. They're weak. Power is subtle. Domination comes from indifference, not performance. A true silent exit involves no explanations, no warnings, no final conversation, no emotional eruption. Instead, you gradually withdraw energy like a strategist pulling armies away from a battlefield he no longer intends to fight on. You let the other side believe they won. Let them relax. Let them underestimate you. Because here's the Machiavellian twist. When people believe there are no consequences, they reveal their true weakness. Arrogance blinds them. Then one day, they look back. They realize you stopped reaching out. They realize they don't have access anymore. They realize someone else will experience what they took for granted, and regret sets in like poison. But that regret cannot exist if you continue feeding them validation. Silence forces reflection. Absence forces accountability. This is psychological warfare without conflict. It requires a level of emotional discipline that 99% of people never master. Because to walk away silently, you must kill 3 impulses. The impulse to argue, the impulse to explain, the impulse to prove your worth. Once these impulses die, a different version of you emerges. A calmer one, a colder one, a stronger one, someone who doesn't need permission to leave, someone who doesn't need closure, someone who understands. But here's the part that will haunt them. Your silence won't hurt immediately. It will hurt slowly, weeks later, months later, when they expect you to return, when they assume you're waiting, when they check their phone and find nothing, when they realize the attention, presence, affection, protection was not guaranteed. That's when regret bleeds in. That's when your absence becomes power. And that's when the silent exit becomes the ultimate revenge. But we're not done. Because in Chapter 2, I'll show you step by step how to execute a silent exit without emotion, without hesitation, and without being exposed. And inside that strategy is the psychological trigger that ensures they remember you long after you're gone, even when you never speak a word again. Chapter 2. The Silent Exit Strategy. You now understand the psychological foundation. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds regret. But power without execution is fantasy. This chapter is the blueprint, not just the idea of walking away, but the system that makes your absence unforgettable. Machiavelli warned rulers, when you withdraw resources, withdraw completely. If you disappear halfway, you look weak. If you disappear emotionally but stay available physically, you sabotage the effect. The silent exit must be total, internal, external, behavioral. This is how to execute it. People lose interest when you're predictable. They feel secure when they know you'll always respond, always show up, always care. So you disrupt that pattern silently. No emotional posts, no passive-aggressive signals, no attention-bidding stories. Emotion communicates attachment. Silence communicates control. Your goal is not to hurt them. Your goal is to communicate, without speaking, that the contract between you has ended. Remember this Machiavellian principle. The one who cares least controls the relationship. Even if it's painful, you must withdraw emotional exposure, because when they cannot read you, they cannot predict you. When they cannot predict you, they fear losing you. A silent exit isn't just disappearing from their messages. It's withdrawing time and energy from anything connected to them. Stop checking their social media. Stop asking mutuals how they're doing. Stop replaying conversations in your mind. This is critical. You cannot create regret in someone else if you remain mentally chained to them. Their power over you dissolves when your attention no longer feeds them. Thousands of men have experienced this shift. The moment they redirected their energy inward, others suddenly wanted access again. Why? Because the value of anything rises instantly when access decreases. This is basic economics. It's also basic psychology. You become scarce. Scarcity triggers pursuit, but only if the withdrawal is silent, not dramatic. The silent exit fails if your life stagnates. People regret losing you only when your evolution forces them to compare you to the version they abandoned. To transform silently, you must rebuild in 3 dimensions. You commit to becoming stronger, sharper, more disciplined. Even small improvements compound psychologically. You expand your circle, meet new people, develop independent connections. Not to provoke jealousy, but to rebuild identity separate from them. You redirect emotional pain into achievement, work, skills, growth. You become unpredictable, not as performance, but as a side effect of self-renewal. This is what Machiavelli understood. Power isn't in intimidation. It's in transformation. If they see you unchanged after leaving, regret dies. If they see you evolve alone, regret ignites. Silence is not passive. It's strategic. It's the soil where reinvention grows. This rule is the hardest, because silence demands self-control. We live in a world conditioned to respond. Notifications pull on dopamine receptors. People expect constant communication. So when you disappear, you break a pattern the brain is addicted to. Now, pause. Studies show the human mind experiences withdrawal symptoms when social connection suddenly breaks. The same neural pathways triggered by addiction withdrawal activate during emotional loss, meaning your silence physically affects their nervous system. This is not manipulation. This is biology. But here is what the weak never understand. They break silence too soon. They check in. They ask if the person is okay. They want closure. Closure is a myth. Closure is a trap. Never reopen the door. You built the strength to close. Your silence says everything. Here is where most fail. They disappear but still hope to be found. They hide but leave breadcrumbs. They leave quietly but monitor obsessively. That's not power. That's desperation disguised as restraint. The Machiavellian silent exit is different. You disappear inward. You detach, you redirect. No announcements, no warnings, no hints. When they finally turn back looking for you, you are no longer there, psychologically. When they reach out, you are a different man. When they expect the old version of you, you've evolved into someone cold, composed, and complete. Regret doesn't come from losing access. It comes from realizing that access will never be granted again in the same way. That's the wound. That's the consequence. That's the silence speaking. This is the part nobody considers. Regret doesn't strike immediately. At first they feel relief, freedom, ego. Then weeks pass, months. They notice what they lost. Consistency, loyalty, presence, support, effort, loyalty. Slowly, the mind replays moments. What if I hadn't pushed him away? What if he stopped caring because of me? Why did he walk away without a word? Questions haunt because there are no answers. Silence makes the mind fill gaps with guilt, not because you punish them, but because they confront themselves. Time forces accountability. Time reveals their mistakes. Time exposes their arrogance. Time transforms your silence into a mirror. And in that mirror, they see their own failure. Chapter 3. Implementation and the Silent Transformation. Now you understand the psychology. You have the rules. But knowledge changes nothing. Application is everything. This chapter is the execution blueprint, the step-by-step silent exit that makes people regret losing you, not because you punished them, but because you evolved beyond them. Do not rush this. Each phase matters. The weak announce their exit. They threaten to leave. They warn. They hint. They hope for a reaction. You do none of this, the Machiavellian. Silent exit begins invisibly. Shorter replies. No emotional responses. Increased pauses, decreased availability. You don't explain. You don't argue. You don't justify. Emotional disengagement always precedes physical disengagement. Once you withdraw your attention, they feel the shift, not because you said anything, but because your energy stopped feeding them. This is when most people panic and break silence. But you hold the line. If you don't, regret dies instantly. Your disappearance becomes temporary, predictable, weak. So, phase 1 must be executed with discipline. Silent exits crumble when there are loopholes. If people can track you, they still possess power. You remove access gradually and strategically. Stop posting online. Stop reaching out first. Mute their notifications. Stop responding immediately. Decline invitations with silence instead of excuses. This part is crucial. You do not block them. Blocking reveals emotional reaction. Silence reveals independence. The goal is to show that their presence no longer determines your behavior. Thousands of people break this phase because emotion hijacks logic. Their ego wants proof that they can cut someone off. But Machiavelli teaches restraint. Power is not in the act. Power is in the discipline to withhold it. A behavioral research study found that when someone withdraws unexpectedly, the brain increases attention toward that person by up to 70%, trying to predict their next move. Meaning, your silence literally expands your presence in their mind. Silence is not absence, it's psychological occupation. This is the transformation stage. If you simply disappear but remain emotionally stagnant, no regret will come. You must rebuild yourself into someone stronger than the man they left behind. Use your silence as fuel. Channel emotional pain into reconstruction. Here is your daily execution protocol. When the impulse arises to explain yourself, journal instead. Let silence speak for you. Don't check their page. Build your own future. Don't wonder if they'll return. Make sure if they do, you won't need them. These shifts quietly create psychological distance, not forced, natural. The best revenge is independence. The moment someone loses exclusive access to your attention, regret grows. So build new alliances, meet new people, start new projects, practice new habits. You don't share updates publicly. You let curiosity and silence do the work. This creates a brutal internal realization for them. You lived, you grew, you thrived. Without them. Machiavelli wrote that reputation is built by perception, not declaration. You don't post about your growth. You become your growth. When your evolution leaks through silence, it hits harder than any speech. Here's what happens over time. They test your silence. They send messages. Joke. They want reassurance that they still have influence. You respond with the ultimate dominance. No reaction, no emotion, no explanation, not because you're angry, but because you've moved on psychologically. Emotional unavailability communicates finality. If they insist, stay firm. Remember, regret flourishes in unanswered questions. If you answer, you kill the effect 6 months later. You don't return to their world. You build a new one. You don't prove anything. You embody everything. The man they remember becomes a ghost. Someone they took for granted. Someone predictable, but the man they see now. He is silent, composed, disciplined. Nothing is louder than transformation witnessed indirectly. If they come back, you choose from strength, not longing. If they don't, you lose nothing, because your silent exit wasn't abandonment. It was rebirth. Most people never make it here. The fact that you did proves something. You don't want attention. You want power over yourself. You don't want revenge. You want evolution. You don't want them back. You want the version of yourself you abandoned, trying to keep them. This is the Machiavellian silent exit. Not to harm others, but to remove yourself from those who harm your identity. Before you leave, make a decision. You can return to the same conversations, same distractions, same emotional chains, and stay exactly where they left you, or you can begin phase 1 tonight. Not tomorrow, not eventually. Now, if you're ready to disappear silently and rebuild, comment, "I'm gone." Not a sentence, not a speech, just those 2 words. If this awakened you, subscribe, because in the next video, I'll reveal the follow-up strategy, how to return stronger than anyone expected, and make them question every decision they made. Remember this truth: powerful men don't announce transformation. They vanish, they rebuild, they reappear unrecognizable. That's the silent exit.